I am going to take you through the process of how I created my story. And this is the story of the Golden Troupe. It's the story I've been working on since 2017, and I have never gotten sick of it ever since. I've slowed down on making some things. I've kind of like had periods of time where I wasn't able to work on it as much as I wanted to, but I never lost interest. A long time ago, I was in 3rd grade and I got a random packet in the mail from my grandma, and it was a packet of all about quarter horses, American quarter horses. And I was really interested in horses at the time and just always. And as well, at the same exact time for whatever reason, this is a long time ago, but I also got a packet about Arabian horses, and that packet changed my whole entire world. So from that point on, I knew I loved Arabian horses, and that was kind of weird because at the time I was living in Nebraska, so not exactly a place known for having Arabian horses. I had never seen an Arabian horse in person before, and yeah, it just was something that I just felt immediately drawn to, and I didn't really understand why. Fast forward a few years, and I had moved a few times and found myself in 6th grade and at the library, and I found this really old book about dog breeds. It was a really thick book and all in black and white. It only had like one photo per dog breed. It was mostly words, and it just had a little section in the middle with a few photos of each breed. And in that book, for the first time, I saw my first Saluki, and I was in love. I love that dog. I'd never seen it before. It definitely wasn't a favorite of my family's. And I was like, I love them. I like Salukis. Again, this made no sense because I was, from the Midwest. Currently, at that point in time, I was living on the East Coast, and like I said, I never had seen a Saluki. I've never been around them. There was no reason for me to like them. It's not like my family had them and I, just was around them and that's why I liked them. Fast forward to the end of high school, and I learned about falconry, and of course, I went full on in learning everything I could about falconry. And one of the things I learned was that it took like 7 years to become what they call a master falconer, which is a long series of things that you have to do to be able to become a falconer in the first place. And then you have to take even more time to be able to learn how to raise the type of bird it would take to be able to have a golden eagle. So at that point, I loved the golden eagle. Again, didn't make any sense. It's not like I had ever been around these birds. And I just knew that someday in the future, I wanted to be a falconer and I wanted to work my way up to having golden eagle. A few years after that, I really kind of got into like belly dance and hookah and a bunch of other things that when I thought about it, again, didn't really quite like make sense as to why I'd be interested in those things. My background is Irish, so I always just thought I should like Irish things just because of that. And I really didn't though. I didn't have anything against it, but I didn't have anything like super drawing me toward it. And as it turned out, I've come to find out that when my relatives did a blood test, an ancestry test, more like Polish anyway. So it was funny that my whole life I thought, oh, I'm definitely like 90% Irish, and it's like a very small percentage. At that point in time, I kind of thought to myself, it is interesting that I like all these things, and I like belly dance and Arabian horses and Saluki dogs and cheetahs. I liked cheetahs as well. I read a book about how this one prince had a cheetah in his stable, and it was like a rare white cheetah. So it was just all these things I'm putting together, and I'm trying to figure out what the thing that is holding them all together is. When I tried to find the common thread amongst all these things, kind of the same thing all popped up, and I was a little surprised at what that was because I didn't really know what the central kind of thing was. And as it turns out, all of it is connected through ancient Persia. So taking this all into account, and I'm not particularly religious, so I have a lot of different theories as to why suddenly all these very specific things from this very specific time period was an interest to me. And what I kind of came to the conclusion of was that it's possible, who knows, that maybe like had a past life in that era, and I had exposure to all those different kinds of animals. And that's why I feel so compelled, and have felt compelled for such a long time in my whole entire life, to like these animals, and I had no clue why. It's been funny over time is when I explain that to people, a lot of religious people just kind of shrug and they're like, I don't know, and they don't seem to care. But it's really funny that the atheist people are the ones that are just like so set on that not being the case, and they will refuse in every single way to allow me to like even think that could be possibly true. And they'll say things like really outrageous things like, I was born in Texas, and they're like, I don't know, maybe you saw a Persian festival. I'm like, oh yes, let's imagine it. The 1980s, Texas, a Persian festival, Salukis and Arabian horses as far as the eye can see, on a military base, no less. So I always found that amusing, that like people have really kind of had lots of different reactions to my even thinking that this could even be a possibility. So all that said, I am a creative, I'm an artist, and I have been wanting for a long time now to take a project that took everything in my whole entire life and mashed it together and made it into a cohesive story. And I like all these things. Didn't want to just ignore all these things that I have liked over time. I tried other stories and it just didn't quite fit, or I wasn't really super passionate about it. I tried like a story about my time working in retail and it was too specific, and I don't work in retail anymore, so I kind of lost the desire to do that. And I tried a story about just like taking my life and just play by play it out, and I didn't really like, I don't know, I didn't super care for that either. So I decided to do this combo project of imagining a past life of mine 2,500 years ago in the Achaemenid Empire in ancient Persia. And I really think it's due to the fact that I just have so much connection with these characters and I really want to tell their story. I think it's also a story about myself and how I feel about things, and how sometimes we have pieces of ourselves that we don't want to show the world, and I'm allowed to do that in my comic through these characters. I personally think that if I were to get really mad and show that anger outward to anyone, people would be terrified of me. I feel like I look a little bit like a golden retriever, and nobody would be terrified of me for any reason. But if you've ever seen a mean golden retriever, it's almost scarier than like a mean Rottweiler or a mean Doberman. So instead of me being mean, I can have this character named Aspa, who is a horse, an Arabian horse, wouldn't you know, and I can have her be the rage and the frustration I feel in a lot of aspects of my life. And each one of these characters, even the main character, which is me, but also like kind of not the main character, and I feel like nobody cares about that character as much. Not the main character, is the main character, but isn't. I feel like each one of these characters has some little aspect of me and carries it through their personality and shows everybody like a little portion of me through the comic. That is kind of how this comic story has been born, and it's been a whole process. I've had so many stops and starts, and it's taken from however long it took, 2017 to 2023 for me to finish just the first volume. So there's 3 volumes planned, and yeah, it's going to be a while till I'm done. But this is a passion project of mine, and I am so interested in the story and how it's going to be told, and I really want to get the story out there. I used to want to go through Netflix or Amazon or some big streaming network, and I wanted to get my story out through them. And after all the turmoil I've seen in the past few years and how seemingly ungrateful those studios are to their animation departments that got them through like the severity of the pandemic when people couldn't literally be together, and animated stories took hold and, you know, kind of got people through that time. And now for all those studios to kind of toss those people away and toss these projects away just for like a tax write-off, I don't want to do that with my IP. I definitely want to keep it all for myself. And you know what? If I have to be the one to animate it myself, that's what I'll do. But yeah, that is the story of the Golden Troupe and how it came to be, and how I took everything about my personality, aspects of my life, and kind of combined them all together into a story that hopefully you like. If you are interested in wildlife and animals and the real story of how animals and humans interact with each other, not just like the fairy tale, like, oh, I'm a mystical girl who can just suddenly talk and communicate with horses. That's not how it works. But if those kind of things speak to you, if, say, like one of your favorite movies was the first How to Train Your Dragon, if you always are, you know, into shows and movies with horses in it, if you like big cats and wild birds, then this is a series for you. This series can be seen in its entirety on Instagram. It's where I first published it, and I intended to kind of like publish it there. I like had that in mind from the very beginning. And now I'm slowly converting it over to my own website and the comic websites that, you know, everybody knows about as well. You can read that for free online, and if you'd like to support me, this project, and my animation and second volume efforts moving forward, then you can always check out my Patreon or the membership option on my own website. That is sharreed.com, and my Patreon is at patreon.com/sharreed. Hopefully that was a little insightful look at how this whole entire project was born, and maybe a way for you to consider your own life, your own interests, and see if you have a story that's just waiting to be told in whatever medium that you feel comfortable telling it in. And yeah, I hope that helps. So I appreciate you being here and checking out my stuff, and I will see you next time. Bye.